Hello, and welcome to episode 43 of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Tonight we shall discuss CSGO, Vainglory, and League of Legends. I'm your host Havokpus, and today I am joined by...
Still eat frozencreek today. It's just a dual cast. I've been drinking some Founders IPA, so that's what I'm working on right now.
Yep, just the two of us, like that song. And maybe the fireworks. There are fireworks in my neighborhood going off, so if you hear any loud popping, that's why.
Yeah, it could also be mine too. I have some going on. They were going on till like midnight last night.
Yeah, what I really like
It's
about
kind of annoying.
what I really like about 4th of July is even way after it's over for like the week of, it's just people getting rid of all the excess fireworks that they bought.
Dude, yeah, up here we can get a lot of like buy one get one free or buy one get two free deals. So people buy so much.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Well, speaking of fireworks, frozencreek, CSGO had a handful of matches over the weekend. They were participating in the PGL Major Qualifier. This is actually a big deal for them. Last year, I believe they didn't make it into the qualifier, so definitely wanting them to get it. They played against Big, who is from Germany, G2, everyone knows G2, Godsent, and Flipside, which I haven't heard of either of those teams. But the good news is we beat Big, Godsent, and Flipside, so we actually were able to move on through the qualifier, and we qualified for the major. We did it. It was great.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the matches, and it seems like when we win pretty decently, and it seems like somewhat convincing. And when we lose, we kind of look like a bunch of headless chickens. And we were actually playing up until today, Wednesday. I'm not sure if there's more games tomorrow, but we have kind of been running around like questionably. But we qualified. I'm not quite sure when the major is. I'm gonna look that up unless you know.
I think it's in a couple weeks. But yeah, they also did play in the, I think, ESL Cologne tournament. They're doing like a swish round system, that's weird. But
That's fucking odd.
yeah, they lost the first two games, and then they have to like reverse sweep their way through the group stage. And they beat Tyloo today. This is Wednesday, July 5th, for anyone that cares. But yeah, I think CSGO is a really like momentum-based team. So like if they play the game and the game goes how they want it to go, they'll play really well. If they face roadblocks, or if Stewie or Skadoodle or Automatic can't do what they want to do or need to do, the team is going to really flounder and struggle to get back in it.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of that. Today we actually came back and won a game. It was against
Tyloo, who's a Chinese team.
Yeah, and Stewie went off at least once or twice to make up for a lot of the times that people went off on us. Notably, who was it? Rize from Navi, I think. He's a new.
Oh yeah. I think it was like Raids or something. But yeah, that Navi match
like that,
was complete hell. It was just going back and forth forever. And I thought the match was never going to end.
Fucking destroyed us.
I'm just glad it was over. They must have been exhausted after that.
Yeah, I know. A lot of travel involved, but we come home and qualified, so I guess we can't complain too much. We saw both sides of C9 summer and C9 fall, so hopefully whenever the majors we can show up with C9 summer again and prove to be the best NA team, bar none.
Yeah, gotta keep tank top season going. Transitioning over to Vainglory, they were participating in week 2 of the VG8, and they beat Hammers and they beat Gangstars, and they went to the finals to face against TSM, and sadly they lost. I think that the girl that does all their drafts, and she's supposed to be like this drafting like Einstein when it comes to Vainglory drafts, she wasn't there because she was having some like family event or something. So I think that was definitely maybe something that kind of hindered their performance maybe a little bit. But I can't remember what happened that match because it kind of happened really fast. But they lost in the finals of that week, and it sucks.
Yeah, and I think that they've been performing super well overall. They took down, who was the super team that they beat?
Oh yeah, that was a couple weeks ago.
2
They
weeks
beat
ago, 3 weeks ago.
Rox Armada.
Rox Armada, yeah. So they've easily proven that they're like a top 3 team in the world. So hopefully we'll get more info on Vainglory soon. I'm gonna work on that this weekend, getting an interview with someone who's more in touch with how Vainglory works, because personally I'm kind of a dimwit when it comes to Vainglory.
Yeah, same here. Oh, it's her name is Physics. It's spelled weird, but I believe it's pronounced Physics. But yeah, I hope she does kind of get back and help us with our draft. That way we can maybe perform a lot better. I know they released maybe like a new champion where it's just like this giant rhino thing and it eats you, and it looks so broken.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was in I saw them play it first during that Rox Armada match, I think. But it looked weird.
Oh wow. I hadn't heard about that. I know I've been playing Dota recently, so like I've seen a bunch of weird shit, but I have not seen that rhino thing.
And no one plays Dota. Who plays Dota? Not me.
Yeah, I'm trying not to play it, but all my friends are like, "Hey, let's play Dota." I'm like, "Dude, I played a 50-minute game. I was like a level 17 at the end, and everyone else was like 20
Yeah,
at minimum." It
Dota,
was like
Dota
20.
games take like so long. That's how I got turned off of it.
Yeah, and like it's not like as graphically pleasing.
Yeah, it's kind of ugly.
Yeah, and like I was playing with people who were like way better. So I was like level like 17, and everyone it was like 26 and 28. So I was just a walking fucking dick word.
You're a ward.
So fucking dumb. I'm still mad about it.
That's pretty funny. I guess we should move on. But before we get into the league match that happened over the weekend,
No, let's just go to the.
you don't want to do the
league
fantasy
match.
update? You don't.
No, it's
you
cool.
You don't want to announce to the world that the champion frozencreek himself has only won one match this season?
I'm performing below expectations. That's for sure. I put too much faith in G2.
Yeah, that's Pi is, I think, still pissed that Perks has not performed up to his standards.
I think I have 2 G2 players, and both of them are just like crapping all over the place. So I've scored more points than at least another person above me. So I'm not too worried. I wish there was like a playoff though, but there's not.
Sadly, there's not. Yeah. Also, Trey, myself, and Matheels, who was part of the TSM fan podcast, which I'm not sure if it's still going or
Formerly
not.
known as a TSM fan cast.
Yeah, that. But we're all in like a 3-way tie for first, so it's kind of exciting.
As long as one of you guys win, I think it's okay.
I'll try and bring home the gold.
Yeah, because there's a TSM fan who we worked with, and then a CLG fan that we've worked with a little bit. I'm not sure if he's doing his podcast still.
I think he still does.
I should. Okay. Yeah, so there's a CLG podcast too. Do you know what the name is?
I think it's called like Faith Age. I feel like I should know.
I can get it. If we move on, I'll keep scrolling up.
All right. Well, it's fine. Anyway, League of Legends. Cloud9 played against TSM and CLG over the weekend, and the results were somewhat surprising. Versus TSM, Cloud9 actually won in a daring 2-1 fashion. And versus CLG, they sadly lost 1-2 in a disappointing fashion. Frozen, what do you want to talk about first? Should we talk about the win first? I feel like we should talk about the big win first.
I think that's a safe bet.
Alright, well, I feel, at least to me, that when Cloud9 was playing against TSM, they were playing at like just their highest level possible. Jensen was playing super well, top lane was playing super well, Contracts was playing really well, especially in the early game. Bot lane was playing really well. I think everyone was just super duper focused, and they knew exactly what they needed to do to win. The first game was kind of unlucky that they lost, but I think, especially in the drafts and everything, I think we really picked it up in games 2 and 3, and that really allowed us to win.
Yeah, me too. I thought that we looked cohesively a little bit better as a unit. Did Impact play all 3 games again?
Impact played game 1 for both matches, but then Ray was subbed in for games 2 and 3.
Okay, so I think that the overarching talking point is a Ray versus Impact, but we'll come to that after we talk about the games. I'm looking at some stats, and what's amazing to me is early game rating wise, Cloud9 is actually second in NALCS. So apparently we've been performing super good in the early games. So apparently that would have helped us a lot against TSM, because they're kind of either team that gains a giant lead in the early game, or they kind of just try and bleed you out through the mid and late game and gain most of their advantages there. But it looks like we played pretty good against their strategies overall.
Yeah, for sure. They really look to balloon out their early game leads, especially through Bjergsen. Bjergsen really likes to make all these roams and such. But yeah, I think what really helps is when we draft ourselves at least 2 lanes that are either winning or can at least go even. That way Contracts has opportunities to set up to either just camp for Jensen or set himself up for ganks that can get someone ahead and can lead to objectives being taken. And we definitely saw that in today's like Rift Rivals games versus G2 and Fnatic. And we may or may not talk about that today. That's kind of getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But I think that's definitely sort of the trend that we've been seeing with Cloud9 so far this season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down is to drafting comps with a decent CC. What we saw today was a really good example of that, with Jensen going ahead with chains on the block and completely destroying Baby Faker, aka Caps. But we haven't really drafted any high CC comps besides ultimates. I mean, even against TSM, I guess we had Renekton and we had Orianna, but Orianna and Jarv in the 4th CC is all after level 6, and I think that if we were to draft a little more CC pre-6, that we could win a decent amount more games. But I think that we're still not playing optimally before 6, even if we have a CC or not.
Yeah, I think our draft is really centered around playmaking and team fighting, so that's why a lot of our picks have like everyone's ultimate is like sort of an engaging CC layer ultimate, and we don't really do much until after 6. I do think what's interesting is, hold on, excuse me. Sorry, my throat's a little dry.
Same.
But yeah, I think for Game 3 against TSM, what we saw was really interesting. Cloud9 drafted a comp that had virtually no CC outside of Bard. And we won in an amazing fashion, and TSM could do nothing against us. And I think it's because we were able to utilize a lot of the zone pressure that was created through Rumble, Caitlyn, and Lucian. And we were able to just have this really good siege comp where we could just stand behind the Kate trap line, really just burst down turrets and, pressure anything, pressure other objectives and such, and just really control the map. And I think that's really interesting because this comp, it just looks like it's really hard to pull off. You have Rumble, Nunu, Lucian, Caitlyn, and Bard. And, on TSM side, they have so much catch potential with, like Jhin, Orianna, Thresh, Lee, J4. And to win a game off of having virtually like no crowd control, I think really speaks to the skill level that this team can operate at.
Yeah, and I think that playing such a low CC comp is kind of the pinnacle of League of Legends at this point, just because we've seen SKT run not the same comp, but a similar comp so effectively. And I think part of it came down to how OP Nunu and Caitlyn are right now.
Yeah, Contracts ate up the jungle as Nunu. He was not taking his foot off the gas at all, and it was great.
Yeah. They had to hotfix him, I think, a couple days ago because
I saw that.
So fucking broken.
It was like right after the game too.
Yes. So if you want free low, get Nunu even with a hotfix books. I still think he's pretty good right now.
Yeah,
So,
people have been,
especially with a Caitlyn.
Yeah, people have been comparing him as like a budget Ivern. Like if you can't play Ivern, or if you don't have him, you can kind of go on the Nunu and do basically the same thing in terms of like controlling the jungle. But
I personally think he's better at this point just because he has such zone control and he builds tank and he's like so mobile around the map. And with his I'm not sure what it's called, but his W is so dumb on ADCs like Caitlyn.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
broken. So I wish we could have seen that more, but I guess he's kind of a brain dead champ, and a lot of people don't like to play him for whatever reason.
Who knows? Well, what can we argue is maybe Cloud9's best day so far. Moving on to maybe not one of their best days against CLG. The series was very interesting, mostly because it repeated a lot of the mistakes in week 1, where games 1 and 3 were like totally winnable, and we could have won the match, but we just made poor mistakes either through, giving Huki Aurelian Soul, or just playing fights poorly, and kind of throwing the game because we were doing exactly what CLG wanted us to do.
This was actually the first time I've sat down and watched a series of splits, so apparently I'm terrible luck, or I mean, I don't know. I think leaving Aurelian Soul up for game 1 is okay, because normally I feel like he doesn't pick Aurelian Soul till game 3. So I think it was safe. I just think that we played so fucking dumb around him. From Impact playing a Rumble, like a Diamond 4 player at best.
Well,
and everyone just being completely oblivious to that Aurelian Soul was missing was just kind of dumb to watch.
Well, what I disagree with in the draft game 1 was like, Impact has not been playing all that well this split, and has kind of shown a tendency to get behind. And with a champion like Rumble, you cannot get behind. And if you get behind, he's going to be pretty much worthless. So there's that. Also, considering the zone control that Cloud9 had through their comp, I even tweeted about this as the pick and ban was going on. I even proposed Jensen taking Aurelian Soul. Not only to take it away from arguably the best Aurelian Soul player in the world, but also it fits with the comp of a lot of zone pressure from just what the team can do and setting up for really good sieges.
Have you ever seen him play Aurelion Sol on stage yet? I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
he is not.
I've
So
seen him play on stream
he's
a
played it in
while
solo
ago.
queue a few times, but I think that since we're not really picking it, it can mean that he's such a unique champion that we can't really decide if he is a super meta pick or not. Because things like Ori and Syndra and like Cassiopeia and stuff, they're getting picked left and right because the pros have realized, okay, they have things that are very, very useful and we need them. Aurelion Sol offers some really useful things, but it's probably not as useful or efficient as like the Wave Clear of Orianna or the Shockwave that she offers, or Syndra's ability to just blow up squishies who don't have any MR. So Aurelion Sol probably takes up much higher skill cap or a different way of understanding him, and since Jensen has put his time into other champions, he probably just doesn't feel that comfortable playing him.
Yeah, and I think it also comes down against playing against him. Like they should have known that Aurelion Sol is on the table, and they didn't really play for it. They drafted a pushing lane in bottom, more or less, and they had all of the opportunities with a faster clear from Lee Sin to get wards around the map, and they kind of just fell apart once Aurelion Sol left lane. It's not like a Dardoch even like camped mid exclusively or something like we've seen before. So it was just kind of disappointing to watch.
And the thing is, who he has historically done this on Aurelion Sol. Every time he gets his champion, he makes these really smart, proactive roams. He'll go to a lane and no one expects it, and then all of a sudden he's there. Oh, their jungler's here too. Now it's like a 3v1 situation, and they're diving me. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, we lost the turret. Oh, now they're taking Rift Herald, and everyone's just kind of sitting there because it all happened so fast. Because he can cover so much ground so quickly with his E. So I think that it just feels kind of like you maybe disrespected them a little bit, or in your hypothesis of thinking like, oh, we have this strategy to counter him. I think maybe you disrespected just how well the Aurelion Sol could be executed.
Yeah, and I think we played better around it in game 2 when we picked 2 winning lanes. Should have been 3, but Ray had a really rough time against Jax. But we managed to play a really good matchup in game 2 all around the map. So I'm pretty glad that we made a decent pickup, and we even got Syndra, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, the super early Syndra pick was actually really surprising. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I think they just didn't want her to get banned in the second round of bans. So I think Jensen is one of the best Syndras around. So I'm glad that he got to play it.
To be fair, I think she takes no skill at all.
She takes a little more skill than you think, but it's not unfair to say that she's relatively easy to play, I guess.
Yeah, I understand there's probably like a lot of little tiny intricacies in terms of like doing the sphere combos and making sure you can hit people as you're throwing the spheres down and landing really good stuns and stuff. It just seems like a low ceiling champion because of her ult, where you can just press a button and, oh look, I killed someone. Hooray for me. Hooray for Jensen.
She does have 3 skill shots though, with her Q, W, and E are all skill shots, and one's kind of like an angular thing. Though I do think that her base damage is a little strong in lane, and how she scales is a little dumb with how strong she is early. Kind of like Kate. I don't want to say that she is like super easy, but I've been shit on by enough Syndras to know that it is a little OP at this point.
Yeah. I will also say for game 2, I think it really shows just how OP Caitlyn is,
Oh hell
because
yeah.
the trap line is so oppressive because you just literally can't do anything. If you're ahead, you pretty much make sure that you secure a tower. If you're behind, the enemy team has such a hard time actually sieging against you and taking down that objective that you're defending. So she just creates such this difficult stalemate where at the very least no ground is being gained. And it can be so hard to play around, and especially with the Energizer build, everyone's just banning her left and right because they just don't want to deal with how annoying she is.
Yeah, it is pretty cancer at this point. So I don't know. I really would like to see her tune down a little bit, but let's go on to game 3.
Game 3, I will have to give it to Dardoch. His level 1 strategies were extremely smart. Because he did things that I don't think any team could possibly conceive of or plan ahead for. Like in game 1, he started body slam. He started body slam first, and was able to catch impact unawares. Because he wouldn't expect like, oh, Grax is gonna start body slam and go over this wall and then come around, path around the Baron pit or whatever, and then come kill me. In game 3, our level 1 bot lane would not expect Dardoch to do this insanely strong red side clear that would put him to level 3 super duper quickly, and then come gank them. And I think just in terms of a strategic point of view, it was very brilliant. And I don't want to take away from that in talking about this.
Yeah, and I don't want to also take away from who played a really good Orianna game either. I think that him and Dardoch almost single-handedly carried them through this game 3, I feel like.
Oh yeah, the shockwaves were very good. I think especially towards the end because CLG was really good at just hurting Cloud9 into these choke points. And then Cloud9 would sort of lose sight of where the Orianna ball is. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's a shockwave. And it would almost always catch both Sneaky and Jensen. And they would all just have such big damage, and they'd either die or they'd get chunked so low that they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it was so fucking infuriating to watch. I mean, that's how we lost the game, was off both of them getting caught. And I think when it came down to it that it happens, but it happened so many times that it was kind of odd to watch it happen. It was like 3 or 4 times that they both got shockwaved. And I thought that Ray's Gnar left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, he really didn't do much with it. I think he even kind of created some advantages for himself in the lane just by bullying out Darshan, I think. I can't remember game 3 that much. But it's always kind of frustrating when you see top laners create little advantages for themselves. They have like a good CS lead. Maybe they've already pushed down this turret. But then they can't do anything with it outside of lane once they get into the team aspect. It's almost never being used. And, you lose the game anyway. And it's just like, oh, well, that was, how are you not using your advantages? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think to close this up, let's end on a quick discussion. How do you feel about Impact versus Ray?
That's a good question. I think Impact is good because if you put him on a tank or a bruiser, he's very good because he can play when he's very behind. He can play when he's very behind, and that's very useful because you can allocate all of your gold into Jensen and to a lesser extent Sneaky, and that way we're not taking anything away from our carries, and he can still play if he was at like an even point with the top laner anyway. The problem is sometimes he gets so far behind, he's just really useless and he can't do as much. And it's getting really hard for him to lane, I think, because the meta is not in a place that it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say that it seems like Impact plays better when top lane matchups are more static. Like when it's the same like 4, 5, 6 champions each game, but it seems like he's having a hard time going against mega tanks like Galio and Gragas.
Yeah, I think it's because top lane now has champions that can push really hard, where before it was mostly like Nautilus, Maokai, and Shen, who didn't really have that strong of a push going. And so when Gnar was really meta, he excelled a lot on that because it it could push very hard, but it could also just be like this really big tank that you couldn't really kill. And now a lot of other champions have this really good, push advantage that they can kind of leverage, and I think he's really struggling against that. While Ray seems to have had a lot better time with that, and he can use his superior mechanics to kind of outbully them sometimes. I think the problem with Ray is that his team coordination isn't as up to par as Impact's. So we're at this really weird spot where the pluses and minuses for both players kind of put our team at a disadvantage either way.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure though if that's fair to say because if we look back across the split, I think we've won more games with Ray, percentage-wise, than we have with Impact. I'm not quite sure if maybe he
No, Ray
isn't
certainly
sure
is
how to
getting
play the
better.
meta though.
He,
What?
Ray's certainly getting better. I don't want to discount Ray because Ray, if you look at how he's playing now and how he's playing with the team now, like today, for example, in the Rift Rivals match against Fnatic, versus how he played when he first started playing with the team, he has come such a long way, and he looks a lot more coordinated than he did when he started. I think he still has a way to go, but I think he has a lot more room to grow, versus Impact is kind of an old veteran who can't really grow anymore, I think.
Yeah, and I think looking at the stats now, our top lane is obviously goal deprived. I think in goal percentage rate in Impact we're like bottom 3, and even at goal difference at 10 and CS difference at 10, they're both like really low, but they're both pumping out good DPM. So I think that we just haven't quite found a way to play around the top lane at all, and I think that's perhaps been one of our problems is not being able to cohesively play around the top lane when other teams have put a lot of priority into it.
Well, I think to be fair, this has been like historically a problem. Even when Balls
Oh yeah, for
was
sure.
on, even when Balls was on the team, we would just leave him up on an island, and a lot of the time he would be the one taking the brunt of a lot of ganks. He'd be getting behind, and it'd be the same kind of situation as Impact, where he would be behind, but he would still be doing all the things that a top laner would need to do. He'd be split pushing, he would TP when he would need to TP, he would team fight when he would need to team fight, and he had a decent enough mechanics to where he could still help out the team and still help us win a lot. And even when people shit talk Balls, I thought Balls does exactly what he needs to do, even if he is left on an island or gets behind. And that's why I thought he was still a fairly good asset to the team. And C9 has always had sort of this top lane problem because we're always putting more money into mid and our bot lane. So I'm not sure how they can necessarily fix it. Maybe it's just trying to get Contract to just path up the top more. Maybe trying to just get him to see more of the value that Ray and Impact bring. I'm not necessarily sure.
Yeah, and just one last thing for me. The first blood percentage among top laners in NA LCS right now, Impact and Ray are the bottom 2 out of the bottom 3, with one being Balls, I believe. So it's obvious that these guys are getting camped pretty substantially because their goal difference is also just as low. Impact's goal difference at 10 is actually almost twice as big as Race's, but they're 9th and 10th, just above Balls, I believe. And teams like Immortals with Flame and CLG with Darshan have their top laners with the highest goal difference at 10 right now. So I think a lot of it comes down to understanding how to play around top lane, just because it's something that we haven't been able to do apparently.
Yeah, we're definitely a bottom half of the map focused team. Teams like Immortals and CLG definitely play towards the more top half of the map, and I think that really shows in the way that the teams create their advantages. You know, CLG is constantly camping for Darshan so he can get a really nice advantage, and then he can go to his strength, which is split pushing. Uh, and I think maybe the same goes for Flame. I'm not quite sure. I don't watch much Immortals games. Apologies to Immortals fans out there. Your team is very good. I just don't watch them for some reason. I really should, because I'm a Cody Sun fan. But
Yeah, Cody Sun's
yeah.
gold difference at 10 is 87 gold up at 10, and Sneaky's is negative 77. So it's not like they're making a ton of trade-offs. They're just maybe playing around the map better or picking better matchups or something. I mean, I obviously it's working though. Stixay is down with Sneaky though, not quite as low though. So I'm not quite sure what it would be.
It could probably be a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah, let's move on after this point.
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say that Cloud9 is still winning a pretty good amount. Uh, so I think as long as we're winning and we're doing it in a pretty good way, uh, as long as we can change some small things, I think it's fine for that small deficit in the bot lane.
Yeah, let's move on to patch 7.13 really quickly.
Yes. So they are for Rift Rivals, and then next week they're going to be playing on patch 7.13. Not a lot of interesting things. There were some nerfs to Galio's Q and R. Trundle's Q and W got buffed. Zaya's Q lockout scaling now scales with attack speed, so the more attack speed, the quicker you can throw your Q and then throw an auto attack. I think probably the biggest change is to Kennen. They made it so his passive doesn't stack with Hurricane, and also they increased the AP ratios on him to, I guess, make AP Kennen a bit more viable. I'm not sure if this exactly kills ADC Kennen, since his kit still brings a lot of usefulness to him, and just like to a team. But I think in terms of damage, it's definitely kind of taken away a little bit from it.
Yeah, I think one thing Riot is trying to do right now is to eliminate their reliance on Hurricane. So I think that this is just kind of a next step. But we've seen Reckless still pick Kennen and ADC on this patch, so I don't think it's totally dead. It might be dead for most people. I think Sneaky's the only NA player who's kind of played him well.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Yeah,
I think Cloud9's the only team that played Kennen in the ADC role and won with it, like consecutively, or consistently.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up in a second. But I think some of the biggest buffs are actually to Gnar. At level 3, or at level 5, I guess, his Q, his boomerang, is going to be doing 20 more damage than it was previously. So that's kind of a decent buff at level 5 specifically. So
I think that is also just kind of a buff. That's also just kind of a buff to our team, considering impacts like Fame on Cloud9 was with Gnar, and getting
hopefully it is
so many solo kills with Gnar. So if Riot can make Gnar a more viable pick, I think Impact will definitely have a better time in this meta of, bruiserish, heavy skirmishy champions in the top lane, and give him just like a bit more safety.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not even like 100% sure that I still too confident putting in Impact. Besides game ones, just to see how it goes. I do like that Gnar's been buffed. I think that it'll help him, but that might be like a specific target ban because he's been underperforming overall. I feel like so teams might target his best champion.
Yeah, that could also happen. Also, I'm not sure what the deal with Kindred is. I know Riot is trying to kind of salvage her with this mini rework where they're trying to change a lot of stuff about her, but from what I hear in the chatter from the Twitter sphere is that none of the junglers are really satisfied with it, and Riot wants to go away from her being this insanely disgusting hypercarry if given the opportunity to really scale. But they want to make hunting for marks really worth it, and they're having a real hard time doing that.
Yeah, I think it's okay for her early skirmishing to be brought down a little bit, which was done a while ago. I'm not quite sure what they really want to do with her at this point. It would be cool if they did a little bit of a rework on her to encourage more interaction between the wolf and the what is it? The wolf and the
Lamb.
lamb. Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
I
Because based off the new champ, I think that there could be more interaction based around their play style. I think that would be the coolest way to see them go.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I really miss when she had a heal on her E. I know that it was
Yeah, that helped a lot.
it helped a lot just in clear, but I also liked it because you could actually also play her in the bot lane because it gave her
Yeah.
a crazy amount of sustain. So it didn't matter how much you were getting poked out; you could just heal up off of minions, and I really liked it because it was incredibly snowbally. And I played her once in the bot lane, and I went like 22-5, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I think to give her more power, they might have to rework her ult or something. So I would really like to see a mini rework on her as opposed to what they're doing right now. But I would like to see her come back, kind of. But I don't want to see that Kindred meta again, where we have our jungler pick him 3 games in a row in playoffs and get shit stomped.
I would love to just see her get played in the bot lane. As an AD carry main, in that short time frame where you could play her, theoretically viable in that position, it was insanely fun. I had a blast dancing around and doing all this just really fun stuff with her, and I want to do that again. So make it happen.
Yeah, Kindred is like a super fun champ. I would like to see her come back in some capacity. So maybe this is the first chance for her to get some play. I wonder if anybody's going to pick her up at Rift Rivals, like perhaps Xerxes or something.
If it would be any team or jungler at Rift Rivals, it will definitely be Xerxes, because Unicorns of Lev has just the weirdest drafts, just all the time.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that Kindred is his play style, but I feel like if anyone's gonna pick him up, it would be Xerxes.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Rift, well, not so much Rift Rivals, but after Rift Rivals, since Rift Rivals is going on, we don't really have, an upcoming game this weekend. But instead, I kind of want to give everyone a preview of what happens after that, to kind of give us a scope of where the season's gonna kind of end up. So after Rift Rivals, Cloud9 comes home. They play against Immortals and Envy. After that, I think they have probably one of the easiest end of season schedules in terms of strength of schedule. They play Phoenix One, Dignitas, Team Liquid, FlyQuest, and Echo Fox. All bottom half the tier teams. Don't have to play TSM again. Don't have to play CLG again. And I think that's a really great way to just rack up wins and maybe experiment a little. On the flip side, TSM has to play CLG week 9. CLG has to play Immortals in a few weeks and TSM at the end of the week. And Immortals has to, play CLG within the middle of the season. So all the other top teams still have to play super hard opponents, while once we get past the Immortals match, we have a really easy schedule. So I think this is a really great time for Cloud9, since we'll have an easy schedule. They can either secure their top 3 spot or maybe even move up. a peg or two, depending on how the other teams do.
Oh, what's wrong? I mean, I think that is encouraging, but I think that we haven't quite shown that we can even beat teams like right below us consistently either. I think that we still have 2 losses left in us, whether that's to Immortals, we could lose to Dignitas, can maybe lose to Phoenix One, who kind of had a quick revival today. And I think that between a CLG and Immortals, if one of them wins the game against each other, specifically CLG, they're in first place right now by a game, and they have 2 games on us right now, 2 wins. So I think that we do that first place is out of reach at this point, but we do need to work on getting better seating, and I think that we're in a good position to move up, but we're not really in a good position to get to having like a first round bye. I think that we at this point we're kind of stuck in a place where we're not going to get a first round bye.
Yeah, it's weird. Getting a second one would definitely be nice, but I think right now Cloud9 just wants to get the best seeding possible. I do agree that they'll if they're gonna lose to any teams left in their schedule, it'll probably be against Immortals and Dignitas, maybe Envy. I'm not sure. Envy's been playing a lot better, but on an individual basis, I'm not sure if Envy is exactly better than us. But yeah, we'll have to see. I know that Cloud9 really turns it on during playoffs. You saw in spring, they were looking alright, they had early game problems or whatever. When they played against Phoenix One in the semifinals, they completely wiped the floor with them all 3 games, and they made it look easy. And then, they played against TSM in the finals, and it was probably one of the most exciting matches at least I had ever seen. So I think, once they get to playoffs, they will know exactly what they need to do versus whatever opponent they're against. And I think they will, take the weights off and then really show what they're capable of.
I don't disagree with that, but I think at this point we need to work on getting better seeding, because if not, even if we win our first match, we're gonna end up running into. At this point, we would run into, I think, Immortals. Wouldn't no? We'd be running into TSM or Immortals, I guess, at this point. And I don't think that's. If you run into TSM, that's not a good matchup for us in the semis. I think that we need to get into a position to be playing whoever's in first if TSM finishes second. But I think we're still like a couple weeks off to be talking too much about seeding yet, just because there's so much to be played.
No, yeah,
that's where we want to be.
I completely agree. I think we can't really talk about playoffs until at the earliest week 8, maybe week 7, if the standings are pretty much set in stone. But yeah, I think it's way too early to talk about playoffs.
Yeah, I think it'll come after we play Immortals next week.
Yeah, probably.
Let's do Rift Rivals super fast. Then we can finish up.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Rift Rivals was today.
Highs and lows.
Yeah, I would say highs and lows. I think the highs would be that we pretty much almost came back and beat G2. And we beat Fnatic in a pretty dominant fashion. I think the lows would definitely be Sneaky throwing the game single-handedly by getting caught out right before Elder Dragon spawns, and the fact that our draft had 3 losing lanes, so Contracts was basically reduced to a ward that couldn't do anything in the early game.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that that's kind of common, but I'm just more disappointed in the fact that they were playing on a zero ping and Sneaky fucked up that rocket jump 3, 4, 5 times and got caught in bad positions. And a lot of it was just him putting himself in a position to get hooked on purpose. And that's kind of what was most disappointing about it, was that he was wanting to get hooked and he still fucked it up.
I mean, I can see the value of trying to bait off the hook because then you can fight more easily.
Yeah, but like if you know what you have to do to counter it, and it's not like that's something you could do on like 30 or 40 ping, and he was playing on zero and fucked it up multiple times. So that was what was most disappointing to me. But we wouldn't have been in that position if we didn't play the first 20 or so minutes so poorly. And I think that losing that game comes down to more how we played the early game than a couple misplays down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, contracts had like no impact that game, and I think part of it was on the draft. I think also part of it was just he didn't have really a direction to go with. He was looking around the map to try to maybe do things, but he never tried to really do things. But I think so. So you go next game and you go to Fnatic. He plays the Gragas again, and he's insanely proactive. He's roaming with Smoothie to help get Jensen ahead. He's moving top lane. He's doing all of these really nice plays and keeping Broxa out of his own jungle, basically. So I think that it may just be an issue of like maybe confidence. Maybe the first few minutes just don't go Cloud9's way and Contracts gets like super flustered. I think it could be a lot of things, but I think the Fnatic game shows that we can play at a super high level and beat top teams, and Contracts certainly can play at the level that we need him to play at. I think it's just a matter of him getting in the groove and having things go well for him early.
I think a lot of it came down to recognizing the early game win condition based around that like what first minute flash by Oriana.
Yeah, I think so.
And them kind of seeing how to play against that and how to maximize Jensen's impact to carry, because he normally never gets ganked or gets ganks for him, and he got what 3, 4, 5 just because
he basically camped mid lane.
He was ahead and he had CC, and a lot of the times he's not playing with a CC that's gankable. So I think that a lot of that helped. And I think that how they played the Fnatic game was kind of nice to see after how they played that first game. And I think that they showed enough capability to have confidence going into the next 2 days. So we're recording this on Wednesday after the first games against G2 and Fnatic. And there's still 2 more days or is it 3 more days of group stages left?
It's Thursday and Friday are group stages, then Saturday is the final.
Okay. So there's still a couple more days left. And I think that they're going to be in a position to strike for first place of NA teams, and I think that should be the goal. But TSM is currently in the driving seat, at least as of Wednesday.
Hopefully Cloud9 can at least do all right and not lose too much. I think, for me personally, I just want the team to at least go even. If they can go, purely even and go like 3-3 or whatever the even record is, I'll call that a success. Especially if they can at least take games off of every team there. I think that'll be a success because it shows that they're a pretty good team and they're capable of playing against teams from other, top teams from other regions. So that's my hope for Rift Rivals.
Yeah, and I've been kind of surprised how NA's been doing so far. If you would have asked me 24 hours ago, I would have said that EU was going to win pretty handily. But as of right now, TSM's the only 2-0 team, and Unicorns are the only 0-2 team, which is not what I would have predicted 24 hours ago. Like I said in our predictions today that Unicorns was going to win it all. But I guess they were going to win the first place game, but it doesn't even look like they're going to. It doesn't look like that they have a chance to get to that first place game anymore.
Yeah, hopefully all this momentum that the NA teams have built stays with them.
Yeah, so we can finish up. We don't have to talk too much. We have a question.
Yeah, we have a question. Yay! From Arn, our lovely #1 fan who listens to us all the time and is super interactive with us on Twitter, asks, "What would you be doing if Minecraft didn't exist?" As for me, probably the same old thing I usually do. I don't play Minecraft. I tried playing it a few times, but could never really get into it or like it. I just found it kind of boring.
Yeah, I'm also sorry, Arn. I've never actually played in Minecraft ever before, so I would literally be doing the same thing, playing League and feeding a bunch of times.
Same. Well, we answer the question. If you want to ask us a question for us to answer, please tweet at us or email us. We'll answer your questions with as much honesty as possible.
Prediction wise, do you want to predict where Cloud9 is gonna finish in Rift Rivals?
I'm gonna probably stick with mine and say 3-3, maybe 4-2 if they can keep their stride, but I'm gonna say 3-3.
All right, and what place game are they gonna be playing in? First or second or third? I guess that sounds like second to me.
I guess second. It depends
And are
on
they
how
gonna win that
Phoenix
matchup?
1 and TSM do, I guess.
Are they gonna win their matchup though?
I think it kind of depends on who they get. I think Fnatic and G2 are much better in best of series versus just one game. I think they can probably beat Unicorns of Love. If they go against Unicorns of Love, I think they can definitely win. Just because Exile played so bad today.
He did get camped pretty hard.
He
I just don't get a
died
Unicorn's
so much.
A fascination with Rise.
It hasn't been meta for like a whole season, or like a whole like summer split.
And I don't actually think they've won with Rise. I've watched most of their games, and they might have won once or twice when I missed it, but I feel like they always lose. When they pick Rise. So sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was pretty much done. What are your predictions?
I'm gonna say that Cloud9 is going to go 4-2, but they're gonna end up in the second place game against a Fnatic, and we are gonna win it in 5 games. So we're gonna, I guess, technically kind of end up in third.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It seems that they're all evenly matched at this point.
Yeah, and I actually really like that because it keeps it pretty competitive and pretty entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and even Fiend and X1 beat Unicorns, so I think Unicorns are better than what they've showed, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Do you want to do moment of the week or nah?
I guess the only one I have in mind is Stewie going off today against Tylo. It was like 4 straight kills when they were down 2 to 5 men. and
Oh,
I
that
think they
was
planted the bomb.
Skadoodle. Skadoodle
Oh,
had
Skadoodle. Okay,
he had the
so
op
they
and he
planted the
killed.
bomb.
He would have killed all 5 of them if he was maybe a bit faster. I think.
Yeah, he
He would
killed
have
like three
aced
or
all of
four,
them. But
and then he was like, "Oh, we just can't die," and he was actually dead at that point.
yeah, it was
Yeah, but the one
spectacular to
around.
watch though.
Yeah, it was super hyped to watch. So I guess that is my moment of the week. My first non-league related one.
Yeah, that moment's hard to beat. I would say C9 beating Fnatic to put our record against them at 7-5. We Cloud9 has apparently had like a pretty long history with Fnatic as sort of international rivals. So to be ahead in the scoreboard against them is pretty good.
Yeah. Not no. We just need a super hype pen to kill.
Yes.
Next time around.
Well, I think that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening.
Oh shit! Yeah, we talked a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. This has been the 43rd episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Feel free to tweet questions and feedback to @C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. Questions might be answered on the next podcast, so please get them in. I want you to see what you guys want to know from us or any opinions that we have. We'll definitely answer them. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about Rift Rivals. I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to play out, since it's been surprising so far. So bring in the Rift Rivals questions, bring in the rest of the split questions, bring in any GIF questions. I guess that's about it. That's all I can think of at this point.
Yep. Well, see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye.